know you're out there.
I can feel you now, and I know you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to pick up this microphone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries, a world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you. Come on! Ladies and gentlemen of the RBN listening audience, welcome to this Saturday, July the 23rd, 2011 edition of the Crimson Pill program. I am your host, Antonin Feori. And if you have been with us over these last several weeks, if you've tuned into my other broadcasts on other internet radio networks, or if you have followed my past programming on YouTube on the channel Crimson Pill TV, then what you are aware of is that I have made an exposition in the past of many of the disclosures that NASA is unexpectedly rushing. For some reason, they are in a full court press to make a number of disclosures that have dramatically reshaped our understanding of astrobiology, of our solar system, of our galaxy, of the universe in a whole. In the course of these last roughly 12 weeks, NASA has done more to reshape the correct understanding of astrobiology, meaning life above and beyond here on the surface of the Earth, as well as the correct mechanics of various aspects of our solar system and universe. They've done more in these last 12 weeks to correct what they had lied to us and covered up and intentionally misled us about over the course of the previous 50 years. And folks, today we have one more layer of very heavy NASA disclosure to share with you. I want to begin by just recovering slightly some of the things that we have covered in these last number of weeks and that you can find on my Crimson Pill TV YouTube channel. As well, our website, www.crimsonpilltv.com, is about to go live, hosting a tremendous array of some of these audio and video archives, as well as coverage of these NASA disclosures. Once again, after we get back from our break, folks, I'm going to take you deeper down the rabbit hole than NASA and the secret space program has allowed you to see thus far, but we'll journey there together. Now, folks, in these last several weeks, I have covered with you headlines along the lines of how rogue alien planets can host extraterrestrial life, how these free-floating planets are not only more common than stars, but they are also more common than conventional planets as we think of the planets being in our solar system. I've covered headlines with you like how the lonely rogue worlds surprisingly outnumber planets and stars, but also, in addition, we've talked about the disclosure elements of how Saturn's moon Titan is believed to contain complex hydrocarbons, the basis of what we call life. I've shared with you the headlines. These are all, folks, from space.com as well as nasa.gov. Some alien planets may be like Saturn's moon Titan, meaning, in other words, that they can sustain life. I've shared with you the headlines of discovery of deepest worms holds promise for Mars life. They already know what is alive and living well under the surface of Mars. We've talked about how Earth's atmosphere breathes, quote-unquote, more rapidly than thought before, and we've talked about how NASA has been releasing over the past decade and a half information about atmospheres that are present on moons and in other parts of planetary spheres that prior to that time they had attempted to mislead us that those atmospheres were not present. Why? For the same reason they've attempted to mislead us about the absence or the lack of, the rarity of water throughout not just our solar system, but through the universe as a whole. And again, in this last 12 weeks, they have released more information to dramatically reshape these paradigms than what had been done in the previous 50 years. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back from the break, we're going to be talking about why they're doing this. And during the course of this break, if you want to do a little homework, go to YouTube, and I'd like you to do a search for Virgin Mary and Ivory Coast, because you're going to see about how they are using Project Bluebeam in an attempt to manipulate our population. Folks, we'll be back in just a few moments. And ladies and gentlemen, you are back and listening to the Crimson Pill radio program with your host, Antonin Feori. Folks, we are talking about NASA and their disclosures once again. We're talking about their tricks and their techniques to keep us ignorant, to keep us in the dark, despite the fact that we are the ones that pay the salaries, that pay for the research, and that pay for their gosh darn toys. Folks, they have kept us in the dark for this long for one very important reason, and you've heard me say the words before, national security. Before I come to the latest bombshell announcements by NASA, these disclosures that I sometimes call meta-disclosures, but folks, your humble host has been in correspondence with whistleblowers from NASA and from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and for some length of time now, I'm talking on the order of several years, these folks have informed me of an agenda to be watchful for, to be looking out for, that the moment that a series of certain types of disclosures would begin, that, in fact, would be the signpost. That would be the harbinger. That would be the omen that big things are soon to follow. Folks, why have they felt it necessary to lie to us, to mislead us? Those of us, we're the ones that pay the bills. Well, you can trace the history of that back to what's called the Brookings Report, which was commissioned by NASA and created by the Brookings Institution in collaboration with NASA's Committee on Long-Range Studies. It was commissioned in 1960. On April 18th of 1961, it was entered into the United States Congressional Record, where you can find that in any library that possesses the congressional record for that year, 1961. And in particular, if you do put your hands on the report, what is most germane to our discussion is the section which is entitled Implications of a Discovery of Extraterrestrial Life. Now, I'm about to jump forward into that particular section to read a few quotes that will help you understand just exactly why it is that they have so very carefully and at great expense, in fact, at the cost of the lives of many people who've been involved in this, who have known the truth, who've attempted to share it. It has cost them their very lives, despite the fact that all they were trying to do is help the truth enter its way into the public debate and public awareness. I'm quoting now from a few of these passages from the section, Implications of a Discovery of Extraterrestrial Life. First, while face-to-face meetings with it, meaning an intelligent extraterrestrial life, will not occur within the next 20 years, I pause here to make mention that this report was released in 1961. Their projection was that the face-to-face meetings would not occur within those 20 years, and so we are now 30 years beyond that point. Folks, fasten your seatbelts. I continue with the quote. Unless its technology is more advanced than ours, qualifying it to visit Earth. Artifacts left at some point in time by these life forms might possibly be discovered through our space activities on the Moon, Mars, or Venus. Now, folks, pay attention to how that quote began. While face-to-face meetings with extraterrestrial life will not occur within the next 20 years, ... artifacts left at some point in time by these life forms might possibly be discovered through our space activities on the Moon, Mars, or Venus. When you read between the lines, and we know we have to do that with lawyer speak quite so often, you're finding that they are, in that point, even in 1961, letting you know that they had information in their possession to realize that we had already been visited in the past, and that for some reason, not because there is no such presence of extraterrestrial life, which would be the reason that we would not meet them in the next 20 years, no, they had awareness of other reasons why we would not have face-to-face meetings with them in that span of time. We'll return to that here a bit later in the program. I continue with another passage. These are on page 215 of the report. Anthropological files, and folks, this what I'm about to read for you is the reason why they have kept it at highest level of national security, why several of our United States presidents have been uninformed of this, when at least one of them attempted to make direct access and a direct exposition of the subject. That United States president was removed from office with malice. I quote, anthropological files contain many examples of societies sure of their place in the universe, which have disintegrated when they had to associate with previously unfamiliar societies espousing different ideas and different ways of life. Others that survived such an experience usually did so by paying the price of changes in values and attitudes and behavior. I'm going to repeat the first half of that. Anthropological files contain many examples of societies sure of their place in the universe, which have disintegrated when they had to associate with previously unfamiliar societies espousing different ideas and different ways of life. That, folks, is the reason why this information has been regarded with the utmost highest levels of compartmentalization, classification, because it has been held under the strictest of the peak levels of concern of national security. I'm reading another quote. Since intelligent life might be discovered at any time via the radio telescope research currently underway, and since the consequences of such a discovery are presently unpredictable because of our limited knowledge of behavior, under even an approximation of such dramatic circumstances, two research areas can be recommended.